Hi everyone! Today we will be looking at coterminal angles, quadrants, and reference angles. Here's today's FLT. Since it is a bit lengthy, go ahead and pause the video to write it down. Given an angle, I will be able to find the coterminal angle, determine which quadrant the angle belongs in, and identify the reference angle. So today we'll be combining ideas from the past few lessons. So if you haven't had the chance to go over those lessons yet, I would highly recommend that you watch those videos first and then come back to this video. This is just a quick refresher. Coterminal angles are angles that land on the same terminal side. So basically these are angles that end up on the same spot. And to find coterminal angles, we would add or take away full circles. So we would add or subtract 360 degrees. And then we also looked at reference angles. So a reference angle is the smallest angle that the terminal side of a given angle makes with the x-axis. And we practiced finding reference angles by creating these reference triangles. So today we'll be combining these ideas of coterminal angles and reference angles, as well as quadrants, to solve for some examples. So here's our first example. Since this is the first example, please write it down in its entirety. And then for the following examples, you can just write the angle measure. So for the rotation 431 degrees, find the coterminal angle that lies between 0 and 360 degrees, the quadrant, and the reference angle. So we're going to be looking at the angle 431 degrees, and what we're going to do is first find its coterminal angle. So we're going to find a coterminal angle of 431 degrees, basically an angle between 0 and 360 degrees that would lie in the same spot. So we're given 431 degrees, which is larger than 360 degrees. So it lies somewhere over here. And so what we're going to do is take away a full circle from this given angle. So we're going to subtract 360 degrees. We get 71 degrees, which does lie between 0 and 360 degrees. So the coterminal angle of 431 degrees is 71 degrees. And at any time, if you need extra time, you can always pause the video and ask questions. So we found the coterminal angle of 431 degrees. Next, we want to know what quadrant this lies in. So 71 degrees is between 0 and 90 degrees, probably somewhere around here. Again, you don't have to be exact, just make sure you're in the correct quadrant. So remember, we start from quadrant 1 and go counterclockwise, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. So this angle, 71 degrees, lies in quadrant 1, the first quadrant. And again, this is because the angle lies between 0 and 90 degrees. This also tells us, by the way, that 431 degrees also lies in quadrant 1 because, again, coterminal angles end up at the same spot. So although 431 degrees would require an extra full circle, it would still end up where the 71 degree angle ends up. So we found out that the angle lies in quadrant 1. And so next we're going to find the reference angle. So we're going to draw our reference triangle based on this 71 degrees. Our reference angle is right here. Let me call it X. And X, the reference angle, is actually 71 degrees. So thinking back to our previous lesson, remember that when we are in quadrant 1, the reference angle is actually the same as the given angle itself. And again, the reference angle is the smallest angle created by the terminal side and the x-axis. So given 431 degrees, we were able to find its coterminal angle, which quadrant it lies in, and also the reference angle. So I've jotted down a sketch on the right. And when you're doing practice problems on Delta Math, your answers will look like this. So the coterminal angle is 71 degrees, which lies in quadrant 1 with a reference angle of 71 degrees. So there are many parts to these types of examples, but just break it down topic by topic. Start off by finding the coterminal angle, then figure out which quadrant it lies in, and then draw your reference triangle to help you find that reference angle. Okay, so let's take a look at example 2. For this one, you can just write down the angle measure, negative 597 degrees. We're going to start off by finding the coterminal angle of negative 597 degrees. Since this angle is less than 0 degrees, what we're going to do is add a full circle. So we're going to do negative 597 degrees plus 360 degrees. And feel free to use your calculator here. I found that this is negative 237 degrees, which is still less than 0 degrees. So what I'm going to do is add another full circle. So negative 237 degrees plus 360 degrees. I find that this is 123 degrees, which lies between 0 and 360 degrees. So the coterminal angle of negative 597 degrees is 123 degrees. So these angles are different, but they would end up on the same terminal side. So next, let's think about which quadrant this angle would lie in. So we're going to take a look at 123 degrees, which is between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So this angle right here is 123 degrees, and we see that the angle lies in quadrant 2. Again, this means that the negative 597 degree angle would also lie in quadrant 2. And now this will help us find the reference angle. So what we're going to do is draw out our 123 degree angle, which is in quadrant 2. Create our terminal side and then our reference triangle. So this angle right here is our reference angle. Notice how if we combine the reference angle and 123 degrees, we create half a circle. We create 180 degrees. So again, x, the reference angle, plus 123 degrees equals 180 degrees. In other words, x equals 180 degrees minus 123 degrees. And so, x equals 57 degrees. Our reference angle, the smallest angle between the terminal side and the x-axis, is 57 degrees. And definitely let me know if you have questions on how to find the reference angles. So let's summarize what we found. We found that the coterminal angle of negative 597 degrees is 123 degrees, which lies in quadrant 2. And this creates a reference angle of 57 degrees. Okay, next let's take a look at example 3. So we're going to be looking at the angle negative 842 degrees. Let's start off by finding the coterminal angle. So to find the coterminal angle, I notice that our given angle is smaller than 0 degrees. So we're going to be adding 360 degrees. So we're going to add a full circle. Negative 842 plus 360. So we get negative 482 degrees, which is still less than 0 degrees. So what we're going to do is add another full circle. Again, we're trying to find a number between 0 and 360. So this leads to negative 122 degrees, still less than 0, so let's add one more full circle. Negative 122 degrees plus 360 degrees equals 238 degrees. So notice how for this example, we had to add a few full circles. Sometimes you might have to take away a few full circles. Remember, you want to find an angle that lies between 0 and 360 degrees. So where does our coterminal angle 238 degrees lie in? So which quadrant does this angle lie in? Since 238 degrees lies between 180 degrees and 270 degrees, this angle belongs in quadrant 3. So again, our coterminal angle 238 degrees lies in quadrant 3, which means our original angle negative 842 degrees also lies in that quadrant. Next, let's draw out our reference angle. So we know that 238 degrees lies in quadrant 3, somewhere around here. So we create our terminal side and create our reference triangle. Our reference angle is right here. Again, it's the smallest angle between the terminal side and the x-axis. Notice how x, the reference angle, plus half a circle, 180 degrees, would total to this given 238 degrees. In other words, x, the reference angle, equals 238 degrees minus 180 degrees. So the method to find your reference angle depends on which quadrant you're working with. So we find that the reference angle equals 58 degrees. So let's summarize our findings. The coterminal angle is 238 degrees, which lies in quadrant 3, and our reference angle was 58 degrees. Here's our last example for today. Go ahead and try this on your own, and then press play if you get confused or when you're ready to compare answers. So let's start off by finding the coterminal angle of 1000 degrees. Since 1000 degrees is larger than 360 degrees, what we're going to do is take away a full circle. So we're going to subtract 360 degrees. To find coterminal angles, we either add or take away full circles, and we get 640 degrees, which is still larger than 360 degrees. So let's take away another full circle, and this time we get 280 degrees. This is between 0 degrees and 360 degrees, so our coterminal angle is 280 degrees. So this means that 1000 degrees and 280 degrees would end on the same terminal side. Next, we need to find which quadrant 280 degrees belongs to. Since it's between 270 degrees and 360 degrees, somewhere around here, we know that this coterminal angle lies in quadrant 4. This means that 1000 degrees would also end up in quadrant 4, even though there are a few extra loops. Next, let's find the reference angle. So for this example, our reference triangle is going to lie in quadrant 4. Again, the reference triangle is created by that terminal side and the x-axis. So this part right here is our reference angle. Notice how if we combine the 280 degrees plus our reference angle, we would get the full circle 360 degrees. That is, x plus 280 degrees equals a full circle, 360 degrees. In other words, x equals 360 degrees minus 280 degrees, which means x equals 80 degrees. Our reference angle is 80 degrees. By definition, our reference angle is always the smallest angle created by the terminal side and the x-axis. And this means that your reference angle will always be acute. So it'll always be less than 90 degrees. So if you ever get an answer that's greater than 90 degrees, go back and make sure you've set up everything correctly. So let's summarize our findings. For the rotation 1000 degrees, the coterminal angle is 280 degrees, which lies in quadrant 4, with a reference angle of 80 degrees. So here is a review for today's lesson. Two angles are coterminal if they end up in the same spot. So if they end up on the same terminal side. To find coterminal angles, keep adding or subtracting full circles. So keep adding or subtracting 360 degrees until you find an angle measure that lies between 0 degrees and 360 degrees. And then the reference angle is the smallest angle that the terminal side of a given angle makes with the x-axis. So it's the smallest angle between the terminal side and the x-axis. To find reference angles, think about which quadrant the given angle belongs in, and then draw a reference triangle. So how you set up your reference triangle will depend on which quadrant the angle lies in. Awesome job today, and please remember to submit your notes on Canvas. Thank you.